Hello and welcome to Press Party, where we turn the tables and talk about the media. I'm your host, Katie Eastman. This Saturday marks the one-year anniversary of the Sandy Hook school shooting. Each news organization has a different approach for the coverage. And it's that time of year again when everyone picks their person of the year. Did Barbara Walters get her picks right? One Dutch news site is running solely off of crowdfunding, how this innovative approach could be a model for the future. This week's media fail mocking the sign language community. One network producer may be out of a job. Thanks for tuning into Press Party. Our panel this week, Dr. Bob Rosenthal. He is the chair of communication and journalism here at Suffolk University. Erica Mora joins us. She's a multimedia journalist at Boston Herald. And Jacqueline Cashman, she is a co-host of Boston Herald Radio's Morning Meeting. Thanks to our panel for joining us. 1 year later, the small suburb of Hartford, Connecticut is still healing. 20 first graders and 6 teachers were shot to death on December 14th last year. As that day approaches, the media has difficult decisions to make regarding their coverage. No media signs are placed throughout Newtown, Connecticut as the town braces for the anniversary of that dark day.
So we're trying to say to the world, please give us the chance to grow into that really happy, healthy place that loves children and families, that has great schools. We know who we are. We know that that's our destiny, but we need you to help us get there by please staying away.
And many media outlets are honoring First Selectman Pat Lodra's request. The major networks NBC, ABC, and CNN will not be there, and CBS has said they will have the smallest footprint possible. The first station to send out a press release saying they would respect the wishes of the families was WFSB, a local Hartford TV station.
We ask that you understand that each of us, each family, is unique in our own experiences following this tragedy.
In an effort to help reporters tell the stories of the lives lost, the families of the victims created a website called My Sandy Hook Family.
We will light a candle for my mom, Dawn Hochsprung.
We will light a candle for my older sister, Victoria.
We'll be lighting a candle for our beautiful daughter, Anna.
You can expect round-the-clock coverage on Saturday, but a lot of it will be from afar. Reporting for Press Party, I'm Katie Eastman. All right, Erica, I'm going to ask the first question to you. You were in Newtown last year. What's the right way to do this?
You know, I think it's a really difficult decision for all news media. I personally think that only the people who really need to be there should go, and even that is really hard to make the decision, but I think...
Who are the people that need to be there?
Yeah, exactly. I think that maybe live shots should be there. I think that at this point there's enough information where we can report without having to go into the town and ask anyone or knock down on any doors or anything like that.
Do the live shots even need to be there?
No, and that's part of the issue here. Everybody knows about Newtown, and frankly, all of the information you need to do your story is out there. There's absolutely no need to have somebody doing a stand-up in front of City Hall in Newtown.
But why make an exception for one day? If the media can be there on other days of the year, isn't this kind of arbitrary, just saying on this 1 year anniversary we'll stay away?
Maybe it is, but the reality is it's such a terrible tragedy that happened. And if they're asking this of the media, I think the media should respect it. I think the best thing that local media specifically can do, the TV stations that are in the area, as you said in your package, is to spend Saturday, of course, is always a slow news day, right? Spend the newscast telling their viewers out there, we're not going. Tell them why they're not going, and they will get so much credibility within the market by telling their listeners and their audience that they're not going to go there, but instead we'll relive it. We'll show you old newscasts. We'll show you what happened that day. Use old B-roll. Use old interviews. Nothing good will come of going to Newtown. All you will get will people that will be angry at you.
Is that self-serving for media? It's just
Of course it
constantly
is.
saying we are not going to be
I'm not
there.
saying it's not. I'm not saying it's
Absolutely.
not self-serving, but I'm saying I think the listeners at home, the people that are watching will say, hey, I kind of like that. I like that my favorite news guy isn't going to Newtown today, but instead they're still telling me about what happened. They're still telling me about the gun laws that have changed or haven't changed as a result of Sandy Hook. I think that's the way to go.
There's also no point in going back. You know, the 911 tapes have been released. I mean, right now there's no new information really.
You're right. There's not a news angle
Right.
other than the fact that it's a date.
Exactly.
saying
And we've
1 year.
had plenty of days to go back at this point. Maybe that day is really to move the story forward and let the town heal, really.
Right, and including that staged media event that happened last week or last weekend. And so
that
there's
they
been
seem
enough
to
there.
do so that we could have something.
Exactly. And at this point, I mean, can you imagine losing your child in something like that, especially in a town that size? This is that they're not even having a major memorial in the town because it is just so raw and so fresh. And frankly, any press organization that goes there really loses a lot of credibility in my eyes.
I also think that it's a great opportunity for the media to maybe revisit some of the topics that were discussed right after Newtown, gun control, gun safety, even mental health issues that really haven't been discussed or weren't discussed right afterwards, that we're seeing, after the police reports were released, that maybe should be revisited.
The other thing is about the question about being arbitrary for this situation. I mean, there are tragedies that happen every single day. I can tell you myself as a TV news reporter, a former TV news reporter, I've been often thrown so many people's properties for simply going to the door of a family who lost a loved one. Right. I mean, I know they don't want me there, but my news director tells me, go get the exclusive interview.
And you never know. You always have to ask because there's that one family that really wants to tell their story. So that's why we do that, I think. That's why we know.
Right, but those are breaking news stories.
Right, that's what we did
And
when Sandy Hook happened
exactly. And in
last
Sandy,
year.
you had to be there, and you had to cover it, and you had to ask some tough questions of people who may not have wanted to answer at that particular point in time. And you get a feel for that when you're in the profession. But this is much different, and this should be one of those moments that we honor the wishes of the people in that town.
And if I can just make one comment regarding the coverage last year that I found really offensive, I really was bothered by the fact that so many news outlets preyed upon young children. I thought the young children should not have been used in sound bites. They were victims themselves. I blame the parents for allowing it, and I blame the media outlets for putting small children on camera or getting sound bites with them, whatever it be. I found that totally inappropriate.
Yeah, it was a zoo. Erica and I were there, and over 200 media outlets from all around the world were just preying upon this town. And I think the town is just really nervous about that happening again, and that's why they have said not to come.
And it would happen again. And I mean, so the shooting happened, but there were also other events that happened in that town around that weekend. Let's say, St. Rose of Lima had a bomb threat. Right. All of the media was there. I was there when that bomb threat was made. So who's to say that if the media were to go down there and set up camp, that things like that wouldn't happen again,
A lot of extra stress. Well, thank you guys so much for weighing in. Thank you all for watching. Up next, love them, hate them. We've got the most interesting people of the year. It's a coveted list many newsmakers try to land a spot on. Press Party's Jacqueline Cashman explains why ABC squashed Barbara Walters' choice for 2013's Most Fascinating Person.
I have never heard more anger and dismay than when we announced that the people you're about to see were on our list.
Well, that was last year when Barbara Walters included the Kardashians in her Most Fascinating People of the Year special. The ABC News veteran broadcaster will host her final special of the most captivating people worldwide and may hand out the biggest insult to the American people. NSA leaker Edward Snowden not only made the list, but Barbara Walters wanted him to top it until network brass got involved.
And anybody in the positions of access with the technical capabilities that I had could, suck out secrets, pass them on the open market.
Sadly, ABC didn't nick Snowden because of the harm he caused our country. Sources claim it was because they couldn't interview him. It looks like Snowden has finally been muzzled, at least when it comes to fluffy interviews with Barbara Walters. For Press Party, I'm Jacqueline Cashman.
Also on the list, Jennifer Lawrence, Miley Cyrus, the royal baby Prince George, and Kim Kardashian and Kanye West. Of course, Time Magazine just named their Person of the Year, and he is Pope Francis. Now, I think that royal baby Prince George can't do an interview either, so I don't know why he is on the list. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's also a question of Edward Snowden is just so incredibly controversial, and
which makes him more interesting, I think, the fact that he's controversial.
Yes, but also put our country in harm's way, and so maybe ABC decided to shy away from that. I mean, we'll never know the real reason why Edward Snowden was taken off the top spot.
Do you think Barbara Walters' list is good? It's her last time, her last list.
I can't take it seriously. I really can't take it seriously. I mean,
you can't take Miley Cyrus seriously?
I can't. You know what? Barbara Walters didn't care when I twerked when I was 18 years old. Who cares when Miley Cyrus twerks? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
I would agree. The most fascinating thing on that list is how somebody like Kim Kardashian, a person without any talent at all, can become a celebrity.
She's always
in this culture, which is probably a comment about us more than it is about Kim Kardashian.
But isn't that fascinating though to you? But isn't that fascinating?
The topic is fascinating.
Oh no, it's not, because then you would interview, someone who thought she was a celebrity.
Right.
Snowden would have been a much better choice. Obviously, she couldn't get an interview with the Pope, I don't think, although this Pope might have been able to do it. But
he is on the list. He is on Barbara Walters' list. They haven't announced number one, is that right?
Exactly.
So we don't know her number one.
But isn't this really a comment about our celebrity-based culture more than anything else?
Yeah, because clearly all of these celebrities can't be the most interesting people. Who would you guys put on the list, if you could?
I would put the face of Obamacare that used to be on healthcare.
Oh my gosh, that would be fascinating. You're right.
Very interesting.
That's why, because she's not even an American citizen, or if she is now, she was born in Colombia. I think that would be the most fascinating person.
She got death threats.
Yeah.
After that, they took her face away.
That woman from California that wrote the letter to the president saying how much she was so thankful for the healthcare coverage that she received, and then CNN found her, and all of a sudden she wasn't so happy with the coverage anymore. She would also be pretty fascinating to me.
Right. Okay, who's your pick?
Malala. I think that, for a young girl to be shot and still be able to have the strength and courage to get up and really fight for education and not be afraid of the Taliban, I think she's fascinating.
Okay, so she's taking this a little bit more seriously.
I'm sorry.
Clearly, you want to be all like politically correct.
No,
okay, fine.
But that's why I couldn't take Barbara Walters' list, seriously. I know.
Yeah, to me, you can also be educational. Like, take one of the Supremes, not the musical group. I mean, the Supreme Court, right?
No.
And actually, because a number of them have been very interesting. They're deciding on incredibly complex cases,
especially DOMA this year.
Exactly, and so pick one of the Supremes and interview them, and that would have led America into some incredible insights for something that actually affects their lives.
But then no one would watch it.
No, I think people watch.
Yeah,
people watch no matter what. And you're going to have some of those celebrities on the list. So I think no matter what, people are going to tune in, and that you're forcing them to tune into something actually important, maybe. Maybe you're telling them this.
I just think that the audience that Barbara Walters is trying to tap into doesn't really care about the SJC.
Right, so if you get them in with the Kim Kardashian, and then you also have a Supreme Court justice on it, then you're getting that person to also
spoonful of
educated.
Sugar helps the medicine go down.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Barbara Walters, this is her swan song, I understand, and she actually had been a very powerful force in journalism, and actually a tremendous force over the years for women journalists. She broke ground, she broke glass ceilings, if you will, the way Helen Thomas did for the print side. So she has had a noble career. It's sort of a shame that she couldn't go out talking to Snowden, though.
Yeah,
and it's sort of sad that she has people like the group Duck Dynasty on the list too. I mean, a lot of the people that are on that list are kind of low rent, if you ask me.
And on the flip side, I do think that having sort of a balance of celebrities and politicians or anybody in the political field is important. Like Jennifer Lawrence, I think, is a fascinating person.
Yeah, so I agree that some celebrities should be on that list.
Yeah.
Just don't put all of them on the
list.
Yeah.
Or a baby.
Yes. And maybe select people who are a little bit more fascinating.
Exactly.
But I think the baby is fascinating because this child has just been born into this royal family, and to see how every moment of his life will be so scrutinized, that is fascinating. That,
I think he'll be more fascinating when he can say his first word. I mean, he can't say anything right now. What are we?
It's true.
How are you gonna?
We were all glued to the TV the second Kate Middleton came out with their baby. I mean,
You're
it was
right.
a moment.
So maybe they should be the most interesting people, or they might have been before last year.
Or the family. Perhaps the family,
Yeah.
Yeah. But
well, thank you guys for weighing in. Tell us who your most interesting person of the year is in the comments section, and we will tweet it out with the hashtag Press Party. Up next, crowdfunding journalism. Is it the future? Over the last decade, news organizations continue to look for innovative ways to make money, decreasing advertising dollars, and people who don't want to pay for internet content are hurting the industry. But Erica Mora tells us about one news organization that has tried finding venture capital in a different way: crowdfunding.
We're starting to see just about every type of organization and company start up through crowdfunding.
This time, it's a Dutch news organization. In 8 days, Dick Correspondent raised over $1 million.
These guys are pioneers.
It isn't the first news organization to ask the public to fork over some cash.
What NPR or PBS has done is gone out through sort of older traditional means.
Hello telethons.
Taking their time to pledge their money to AETN and to quality programming.
Emerson professor and social media and marketing expert David Gerzoff said what's different about this campaign is that the publishers used newer methods and created a buzz around the organization before it even started.
You know, if NPR was starting up now, I think they most definitely would start using a crowdfunding platform.
In a country with over 16.7 million people, the news outlet already has over 20,000 subscribers that are paying $80 per year for what publishers call unique content. Gerzoff said this is just a sign of the changing world of journalism.
So there will be a number of media organizations, in my prediction, that will follow suit.
For Press Party, I'm Erica Mora.
All right, Erica, so what was your sense from looking at this story? Is this something that another news organization could replicate, or does it have to be something that when you're first starting the news site, this is how you do it?
I think that it's really when you're first starting the news site, and it's also going to depend on the country that you're in. I don't know if crowdfunding a new news organization in the United States would really work. I don't know if there's a market for that, if people would be interested into buying into that, but I think that a Dutch newspaper would work as a venture capitalist. After that, I think it's just you turn into a nonprofit. NPR, PBS, all of those, I think.
Tampa Bay Times.
Tampa Bay Times, the Texas Tribune.
Yeah, Texas Tribune.
I think that's the difference. So
that's it. Okay. So it couldn't work for someone trying to make money now. Like the Boston Herald couldn't suddenly start crowdfunding something. We don't.
Well, basically what you're talking about is putting up a paywall, right? I mean, it's essentially that's what you're asking for. And we've seen the paywalls don't really work. They're not very effective. When we've seen with the Boston Globe, when they put up their paywall, they have 2 different websites, and their numbers went down because people just didn't want to pay for news. It's like you can't say to somebody, I'm going to give something to you for free, and all of a sudden ask for you to pay for it because you feel like you're getting gypped. However, to Erica's point with her story, it's like, here's a new innovative idea. Do you want to be a part of this? Do you want to create new content? Well, now you can get your head around that.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, crowdfunding is an interesting source of funds for a lot of different things, but the danger of it, of course, to journalism is the crowd may influence journalistic integrity and have a negative influence is what you worry about, because then you're going to be pandering in order to get cash from, Joe and Mary out there in the hustings, as opposed to doing what you need to do for a democracy. It seems to me that with the number of eyeballs now that we're starting to get on the internet, et cetera, that advertising dollars may be shifting a little bit. This is the first year, for example, that Walmart is having a larger advertising budget for online than for traditional media. So, and if Walmart's going in that direction, others will follow.
Yeah, everyone's going to follow after that.
What I do think is interesting too, and maybe not enough journalists do that, is that there are methods of crowdfunding specific story ideas for news outlets. So Spot.us, based out of San Francisco, is a company that journalists can pitch ideas that perhaps the news organization doesn't have enough money for them to travel, etc. But maybe people that are interested in that story and want to hear that story, they can pay into that story specifically.
And then do you do it for the news organization you're working for? You still do, you don't do the story for someone else who's paying you?
So it's similar to a grant, except you're not applying to one person, you're applying to the masses, essentially.
I mean, I hope it catches on. I mean, because the reality is newsrooms don't have the kind of money that they used to have for investigative reporting. And I do believe it's not because people don't want it. I think it's because the news department just can't afford it. And I think that if more people knew about an outlet in order to help fund interesting investigative pieces, I think that there would be a market for that.
And I'll give you an example of how it even affects newspapers. A former editor of the Cape Cod Times, when they were going through some of their cutbacks, said, we'll still cover the accident on Route 6, but if there is a series of accidents on Route 6, I can't take a reporter offline for 3 or 4 days to do an investigative report as to why those accidents are happening.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's Spot News. Spot News is very inexpensive. It's enterprise
and it sells,
journalism.
it gets quick clicks, it gets eyes, and it's cheap.
Exactly. And that's also the problem is paying too close attention to what the clicks say on a website, because so often it's the murders, fires, and car accidents, and ultimately that does sell, but long term, that's not what people want to read every single day, day in, day out. Normally when they're clicking on those stories, it's, oh, my cousin travels that road every day, could it be him? That's not the person that's really coming back.
Right. Well, thank you guys all for chiming in, and thank you to all for watching. Up next, it's our Media Fail of the Week. Welcome back to Press Party for our Media Fail of the Week. The award goes to a producer at the Today Show. During their coverage of the fake sign language interpreter at Nelson Mandela's memorial service, well, they made a bad decision. Take a look.
They're saying nothing he is doing there is sign language. He's just repeating the same gestures over and over.
He seems to be.
Question now is, who is the guy? How did he get there? NBC News also reached out to the British Deaf Association, and they told us the same thing. That is not sign language.
Do we want to reach out to the American Deaf Association just to?
No, don't do it.
No, guys, let's not do that.
That's no, wrong.
No.
Let's not do it.
That is horrific.
That is pretty bad. At least the anchor said right away, no, what are you doing? They noticed what was in the corner of their screen and they said no. Do you think that saved them?
I think that Natalie Morales saved herself.
Al Roker said no too, right? They kind of all chimed in and said no.
But she seemed a little bit more aggressive about this is probably not the right way to go here. And they did have to send out a tweet later on apologizing for what they did. But in general, making fun of deaf people is normally not that funny. And you would think like one of the number one, is it the number one morning show or
number two? I think Good Morning America surpassed them.
But you would think that they would know better.
Yeah, what was that producer thinking in the control room? Oh, guys, this is great. Like, did they run it past anyone? How does something like that get through?
You can't substitute for good judgment, and this is incredibly tasteless and in poor judgment. It really is. It's one of the worst fails we've ever seen, really. Much worse a fail than, for example, the woman from Providence who was practicing being chased by a bear a number of weeks ago.
My buddy Julie Tremmel.
Yes, but to a larger story, I think the fascinating story, and I can't wait till the research all comes out on this, is how did that fake sign guy get a foot away or 2 feet away from the President of the United States and all of those dignitaries on that stage?
That's a much larger fail, not necessarily a media fail, but
security
absolutely
fail.
Incredible.
Yeah. I'm wondering if somebody's going to do an investigative report on how our Secret Service approached that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
And would it be a Secret Service? I mean, I guess I wouldn't know who would. You would think that an organization would put someone in that position to do that. Like
anybody within that. I don't know what the radius is, but wouldn't you think that there would be some type of screening process? Isn't that what the media credentials are for?
It wasn't a Barack Obama event, so I think all these dignitaries were on some level relying on South Africa to make up some of these decisions. I can assure you that the president, had he known ahead of time that Raul Castro was speaking before him, would not be top on his list to go after. So I think a lot of things during that event was sort of thrown together and didn't come together the way that I think the president or other people would have approved of.
And it may well be, although as I understand it, and clearly they're depending upon the South African government to provide security for the event. But as I understand it, that the Secret Service of the United States still has some veto power of whether or not the president gets to be there based upon what they see as a potential threat.
Yeah, and as far as when the Today Show was covering it and taking up that random video, it was probably a YouTube clip of somebody just doing the fake sign language. That's the equivalent of someone just speaking gibberish and pretending it's another language, or say, I still am just baffled by how that could ever get through.
It tells you something about what's going on in the South African government, right? In terms of if they're not paying attention to that kind of detail, what else is going wrong, at that particular level? This was the most major thing that has happened in South Africa in years, right? And they're on the world stage, and they have this now as a legacy issue.
But I think going back to the Today Show and them making fun of that person who is trying to sign, I think that is, it says something about the producer, but also the production team. It's sort of, how can you not stand up to your boss and say, I think that this is a really, really bad idea, you know?
I think it also speaks, I mean, to be completely honest with you, how news people are on some level callous, and I've made callous decisions in my life because, you know, you're covering so much news all the time, and you can't help but sometimes make fun of the ridiculousness of what goes on, because this guy, we're not even sure if he really, you know, was a sign person. We know that he made up a bunch of signs. We know that he was on there for 3 hours when the time someone's supposed to be doing sign for the deaf is 30 minutes because it's too hard to concentrate. We know that the company that he apparently worked for disappeared. So there's so much craziness that is going on with that situation. So as reporters, like behind the scenes, it's like, dude, what happened here? You kind of make a joke about it. But what goes on behind the scenes doesn't need to go in front of the camera.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think David Garroway is rolling in his grave right now, one of the great founders of the Today Show.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, thank you all for weighing in. And thank you to the cast and crew here at Suffolk University. Thanks for watching Press Party. I'm Katie Eastman. We'll see you next week.